diggers appear, and ain't no wannabes here with some not so nice advice for your writing career. To be clear, no punches will be pulled, but the punch may be spiked how they like before they get on the mic. To my left, we got the mighty Mer Lafferty, and if I piss her off, believe me, she'll come after me. And her co-host, Matt Evan Wallace, on the right. Yes, she may be half as hype as she can take him in a fight. So settle in, folks, buckle in and boot up. Time to meddle in a way to make your writer shut up. It's hard work, but the perk is that it's fun and exciting. Facebook will still be there when you're done writing. Ditch Diggers! Ditch Diggers!
Coming to you live from the It's 5 o'clock somewhere lounge in the Ditch Diggers Manor. It is the Ditch Diggers with Kameron, Hurley, and Mer Lafferty.
Woo!
Yes, we are. I was supposed to say the numbers first. Like I said, I'm a professional. It's like 17 years doing this. It is season 8 and episode 15 of Ditch Diggers. That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds good. All right, so welcome to Ditch Diggers. This is the podcast about business in writing and how it can be soul-killing and crushing and depressing and how to keep going. Is that what the podcast is? Is that not what the podcast is about, Kameron?
I thought we were going to do this in an uplifting way, Mer.
I'll come in again.
Again, it's 5 o'clock. Mer and I are already drinking. That tells you how our weeks have started off, so...
Yeah, so it is, Ditch Diggers, we talk about the business. It's just the business has been a little frustrating lately. Frustrating-er lately. So Kameron and I are here to talk about that. We may have an adult beverage or two. I also have seltzer, because that's healthy. Although it's kind of a see-through can, because it's green. Isn't that cool?
That counteracts...
Invisible seltzer.
Yeah. Scientific studies have proven that counteracts any alcohol you are to imbibe from here on out.
Indeed. So we are live on Twitch. We are live on Twitch Mondays, usually 12 p.m., except when we're lucky enough to have Kameron join us, and then it is 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And because
I got a day job, yo.
Yeah, tell us about that day job, Kameron, or have another drink, one or the other.
Yeah, probably just have another drink. No, it's a day job where I write all day and try and convince other people to write all day. And it hashes out about how you think, but it pays better than fiction. So I mean, I can't knock it.
Yeah, I did the math a couple of years ago that McDonald's paid better than fiction. And that was getting $100K. That was getting $100K advance for a trilogy.
Oh yeah. Yep, for sure. Well, once you take out what your agent gets a cut, the taxes get a cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. But by the time you don't get it all at once.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't get it all at once. So,
yep.
Yeah. See, the one thing good about the day job, y'all, aside from health insurance that a lot of people get in America anyway, is they take the taxes out for you. So when you get your paycheck, that's your money. It's all yours. It's exciting. And when you're an author and you get a check for, let's just round it and say $10,000, well, actually you would have gotten, what, $8,500?
$500, yeah.
Because the agent would have taken their cut. And then you got to put away 35% of that for taxes, because if you don't, you're going to get fucked next tax season.
As someone who pays a back tax bill every month, yes, you will get fucked.
So, yeah, when you hear someone got a huge advance, just know that there's a lot of carving up that big pig in the background of who gets the haunch and who gets the legs. And I'm running out of pig metaphors here, but when you get a major advance, that pig, you don't get the whole pig.
You don't get the whole pig. You get a couple of hamburgers.
Yeah.
Here's royalty season's coming up for me. So again, September, October. It's a great time to get royalties because it is also the season where I buy my mums and my bulbs.
Oh, excellent.
So
yes.
I buy flower bulbs, I pay off a couple bills. I get a couple bulbs and mums. Maybe we pay part of a roofing payment or some shit, and that's it. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm 12 books, 13 books in. And mostly it's just like, shit, yeah, I can just spend $1,000 on bulbs, flower bulbs, yeah. And then it comes in and then it's gone. But no, I mean, you do the math sometimes and you're just like, yeah, I think I made it like 10 months without a day job and it sucks because you're poor. And I think Nick Mamatas has this great book, what's it called? Starve Better. Really good.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. Anyone who wants to be a working writer, because he really he understands, like, hey, if you can be okay with being having a working class income, you will be happy to be a writer, because you can make a working class income as a writer. It's writing everything, right? You're writing people's term papers. You're writing for Fiverr. You're you're taking all these hustle jobs. Yeah. You can do it. It just really fucking sucks. It's just you're not making, you're not Castle living in New York City, partying all the time, and maybe writing a paragraph every weekend. That's not how it works.
Right. Yeah. Did we see him right?
I felt like, I think there was like, when he writes, when the rest of us write, which is that week before the book is due. And then he takes a week off from seeing her at the police station. It's like, while his mom's walking by, and it's like, montage, and then it's over. And then he's written a book for another year. And then
he
cashes.
I could write in a montage.
I know.
Yeah. Anyway, just going back just a second. Cameron's a bigger author than I am, so I find this ridiculous that I have to say this, but just in case. In case you don't know, Cameron's got basically the Garden of Eden in her backyard. I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. Go to her Instagram. It brings my soul peace to look at her Instagram, and I don't even live there. And so when Cameron talks about buying bulbs, know that A, there's gonna be a lot, and B, it's for a really good reason. Cameron buying bulbs is like the people in Buckingham Palace saying, we gotta seed the lawn. I mean, it's a big deal. So really, go to Instagram, look at Cameron's stuff. I want to tell them to follow you as an author too, but hell, right now, follow her as a gardener, because goddamn, beautiful, beautiful stuff. I don't even know how you do it.
I've been learning a lot. Again, it's nice to have something. In fact, I was talking to a friend about this, because he does woodworking and he does beautiful little things. I was like, oh man, you should really sell this stuff on Etsy. And he's like, I don't really want to monetize it. And I'm like, oh, you don't want to monetize every aspect of your life? And really, it's like the gardening and painting was like that. And in fact, I think I stopped painting when I tried to start selling the paintings. And then I was like, then it's monetized. It's not fun anymore.
Were you, this is going to be what Matt and I call a perfect segue. Were you monetizing your paintings, like trying to sell them as is, or was this when you were selling them as a Patreon benefit? As a Patreon benefit, yeah. And so you could get them for... Segue into Patreon. Oh, check it out what I just did. You're a professional, Mer. I'm totally professional. Mer wants to talk about Patreon, because we, as people who have Patreons, we get to ask questions about this nonsense all the time. So you go ahead, Mer. Anyway, the reason why I was asking is I remember when you had the I'm going to do a Bob Ross painting, and you can get one if you support at the certain Patreon level. Yeah. And then I realized you'd stopped talking about painting, and you'd stopped offering that. And that made me kind of sad, because I remember when you said that painting was really helping you with some depression about 6 years ago for, reasons that we're not going to talk about. But I'm sure if anybody has a shred of a brain cell, they can probably think about why. Let me scroll back. It is for anybody listening in the future to the feed. It is currently 2022. Anyway, carry on. So, but I think that was part of it, and I'm considering getting back into it again, with the purpose being I'm not gonna
try to monetize them in any way, shape, or form. But then comes the problem of you got to get rid of them somehow. So I think I'll just give them away. I'm thinking I'll basically just be like, okay, if you support me at a certain level on Patreon, maybe you'll just get a surprise every once in a while, and I will send you painting. Just because at a certain point, I need to have something in my life that's mine.
Yeah.
And I talk with my assistant about this constantly. He's always wanting, oh, you could do this and you could have a thing about it. And I said, I need to have a certain amount of my life that is just for me. I'm not monetizing my garden. I might occasionally do walkthroughs, and that's fine, like on Instagram or something. But I don't want to become a gardening influencer. I just don't.
I was going to ask how you would monetize your garden. It would be like, use Miracle Grow, blah, blah, blah kind of thing.
I use a chicken influencer. I mean, you can be an influencer about fucking anything at this point.
Of course they exist. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, they do. Sure. I follow them, Mer. Yeah. I follow the duck influencers. Are you kidding? Eddie the Duck. I follow them all. It's wonderful. God bless them. That way I don't have to do it.
Yeah, I've kept my music for me, solely for me. I don't even play for my family because they're both musicians, and wherever I am in my musical journey is just like, will always be way, way below them. And so it's kind of like, I know they want to support me, and they do listen when I practice, and they're very supportive, but they don't push me to like perform. And I'm 49, so I'm not asked to do recitals. Also COVID. But, the music's just for me, and I like that. I've also been pouring resin in my basement, and I've been getting better and better. And I thought about the whole selling stuff, but the main YouTube guy I watch has been, like, he did the whole, like, okay, I helped somebody out on their Kickstarter. And so I tried to figure out if it was worth it for me to sell dice. And so he tracked everything he spent in trying to, in time and money and supplies in fulfilling this Kickstarter requirement that he agreed to do, and it was not worth it. This is why, guys, if you're a dice lover and you go to Etsy and you see dice and you see there's $60, there's a reason for that. It takes so much time and so much effort to hand create dice. And I can do it, but I could just have fun and enjoy myself. And like you said, I've also thought about just like throwing some resin gifts to Patreon supporters, but not promising it, because then it's stressful.
Yes. Then it's stressful. And that's what really got to me is, because I think of that with a Patreon story every month, right? And I have other rewards I do, and I do videos, and I do behind the scenes stuff. I do a hangout. And after a while, it's just not fun anymore. It's work, right? It becomes your work. And I think that's something that is every writer realizes once they become like a paid writer and you're on a contract, all of a sudden that thing you were doing for fun that was really great becomes a job. I mean, whether you're making $10,000 a year or $100,000 a year writing, it's a job, because $10,000 is still not nothing.
Yeah.
You know? And it's a big deal to get a check a few times a year that's like for $5,000. That's like amazing to get just a chunk of change. And you're like, oh, wow. And you're paying credit cards and buying bulbs and, whatever it is that you do. It's great. It's not nothing, but it's work, and it becomes work. And again, as humans, we kind of becoming that, everything is capitalism. Yeah. Everything making the money is just, it's exhausting because you've monetized all your heartbeats,
Ooh, that's hardcore, Cameron.
I know. I've been thinking about this a lot.
Someone clip that, monetizing all your heartbeats.
Your heartbeats are being monetized, friends. Yeah.
Damn. I it's like all I wanted to do was, I had some friends I wanted to send a thank you gift to. And I thought, I'm going to make them some dice, and then I've got tons of molds. I can make anyone a chess set. I can make a bunny. I can make a notebook. I mean, I got a lot of shit I can make. And then suddenly when I'm thinking I want to make gifts for these specific people, it's like even just that was enough of a stressor to hold me back. Like, is this good enough? I'm not sure if it's good enough. Is it, what if I pour this and it doesn't work out? And I've got leftover stuff. What do I do? How can I use this for a purpose instead of just, let's pour some resin in a thing and see what it looks like when we pull it out, which is what I'm doing it for. And even just like trying to make some gifts for some friends, it's a lot. And which is... Okay, wait, I'm sorry. I've been trying to not go to chat so much in the actual recording of the show for the feed people, but I just have to say, Shauna just said, now I'm wondering how I can monetize having a pacemaker. Shauna, we salute you. That's awesome. If you could figure that out, you will be so freaking wealthy.
I told her in the chat, make a pacemaker live stream. There's got to be, I bet there's some out there right now. Play some music to it, ASMR that shit. You know.
How do you...
You could live stream, like, here it is inside my chest.
Oh, God.
Like, wow, look at that.
It is...
And they'd be waiting for, like, an event. Sorry, we're going to get dark here. But this is the problem with capitalism, is my point, is every single little thing. And that's why it's like, you are literally selling pieces of yourself, right? Your time is finite. And yeah, and I think about this a lot, obviously. So yeah. Where I'm like,
I just got
no
very
problem.
like I just got kind of scared there for a second. Just like, okay.
What else do we want to monetize? Let's monetize
I was trying.
That's the problem. Yeah.
I was trying to help my violin teacher. He's talking about possibly streaming, and I was trying to come up with. You want to talk about streaming and mental health, or rather music and mental health connected. And so I looked up like music streams and I looked at mental health streams. Did you know what mental health gives you? It gives you titty women humming into a microphone. And I'm like, I've heard this exists. But I'm like, there's a woman dressed as a nurse with cleavage, just magical cleavage, and just like ticking and humming and purring into a microphone. And I'm like, this is the world we live in, and I will never, ever have the Twitch following she does, because I'm not going to show my titties and hum into a microphone. I'm sorry.
But good for her. Good for her.
I am not trying to slut shame or anything.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Baffled.
You gotta use it. Hustle. It sucks.
I'm judging the viewers, not the woman who's making the money. She's yeah.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Again,
absolutely.
That woman who was selling her farts in jars. Good for her. I want to sell my fart in a jar for $100 a pop. I mean, because here's the thing too, is like at a certain point, you're just scamming people. You know?
I guess that's the point. I'm not good at scamming people.
Yes.
I don't.
Well, here's the thing too, is are we here to make money? And we all have to make money because we have to live. Or are we here to write words and to make stories and to do things that we love? Making money is awesome, and I want to make money, which is why I have a day job. But it's like, but when at the end of the day, like I look at it and go, well, yeah, I could spend my time doing something I don't enjoy. If that woman enjoys popping into the microphone, good for her.
Yeah.
I wouldn't enjoy that.
No.
You know? But I enjoy writing. And so I will monetize the writing because it's something I enjoy doing. I mean, Patreon, writing a short story every month, even some months where I'm like lying on the floor, like, oh, I don't want to do it. Is this how, Robert Howard felt when he had to pay his rent every month? Because that's what I use it for. I use Patreon to pay back my back taxes and really boring shit, right? Oh, the utility bill, the water bill, the energy bill going up. They're really boring things, but I have to do it so I can pay those bills. At the same time, I really like the stories. I wouldn't be writing as many stories if I wasn't making what I am on Patreon, because I wouldn't be motivated to do it. So I think that in that case, I really enjoy the Patreon because I feel like I'm getting enough out of it and I'm putting enough into it that there's this nice kind of symbiotic thing going on, but not everything is like that in my life. Yeah.
There is some discussion in the chat of how to break into the fart in a jar market.
I think she made that up. I think you just have to be a visionary. To this day, sometimes when you hear about somebody who's just ready to skim the tar off people, you have to be like, you know what? You go.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe, here's the deal, Valerie. You want to go into the underarm sweat market. Like, fart in a jar is already covered. So you want to do the Mythbusters thing and, like, watch a scary movie and grab your underarm sweat and say, this is fear in a jar. And then, like, watch a love story or a porno, or watch a love story and tell them it's a porno or something, and then grab that.
You're giving away gold here, Mer.
I'm giving away gold to Valerie. Valerie deserves gold. Kids Are Asleep. Everyone follow the Kids Are Asleep. She's amazing. Good writer. Good streamer. Good stuff. But bespoke artisanal bodily fluids. Nice. Someone should sell their dog's farts. See, now then you have to follow your dog and get their farts.
No, you don't.
Oh, that's right.
You just buy a bunch of empty jars and send them to people. You make life hard and complicated. You put a little label on it, but here's the thing too. Your dog needs to be an influencer first, right? It's not like dog fart in a jar profit, buy a jar profit. It's like you have to build up a following for your dog and have all these cute dog videos, make it entertaining and become a TikTok sensation. Then you can sell the dog fart in a jar, which is really just you buying a bunch of jars from Michael's and sticking a thing on it.
Here's my problem with all of this. Now, granted, people who can do it, fantastic.
Yes.
More power to them. The thing is, I don't want to deal with people who will buy a fart in a jar. I want nothing to do with them. I don't want their money. Perhaps I'm speaking from a privileged area and thinking that I can pay my bills, and so I don't need to deal with fart in a jar money, but I don't want to. And
it's fair.
I don't want to deal with viewers who want to watch me wear very little clothing and hum into and click into a microphone. I don't want those viewers, because you watch the chat and they're just like, date me, I love you, blah blah blah, and I'm like, she's wearing not a lot of clothes and humming into a mic. It's like, what are you going to talk about at dinner?
You're not.
Well, if they actually got if they got their wish and you took it to the logical level, like they'd take you out to McDonald's or maybe an Olive Garden, and you'd sit there and it's like, do you just like undo a button and go, tick, 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 tick? I mean, what do they think is going to happen? I don't want to deal with people like that. And I know that me not wanting to deal with people like that means... What, Cameron?
We have people like that, though. Fewer of them. But we have those weird people.
Tell me.
I just think that we do.
I want you to tell me, like, in science fiction, you don't like name names, but just tell me, like, who is undoing a button and humming at their date in science fiction. There are fans. That's what I'm saying. There are fans of our stuff who are weird like that. Yeah. I mean, you can't, and I think someone actually said in the chat, they're like, oh, you can't really, like, there are people I would prefer not to read my books who read my books. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah.
I guess I'm more...
You can't control everything.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like...
But you can control how you spend your time on this earth, Mer. And that, I think, is what we're talking about. To bring it back.
It sounds like you want to do a segue, Cameron.
And leave farts in a jar? What?
I don't know if you want to leave farts in a jar.
And I think that's the issue, is what we're talking about is how do we want to spend the days of our lives?
Oh, that's a good...
And moving through an hourglass are the days of our lives.
My mom loved that soap opera.
I know, I was going to say how many people get that reference anymore. Me? But I know, it's old. Actually, that show's probably still on, frankly.
I think it is. So, it's probably got the same characters having the same problems.
Characters. Oh, yeah. And their children's friends and their new identities. Mm-hmm. Anyway. But I think that's what we're talking about is what you are choosing to monetize, right, in your life is the stuff that you are choosing to spend your time on. And that counts with the day job, too. And some days, I'm filling out freaking spreadsheet going, why am I spending my heartbeats on this? And it's like, well, because it pays well and I have to feed my dogs. And I don't mind doing it in the way that I would mind doing some of these other things, right? To your point. So, I do really like the anonymity of the day job. I think that's something good too. And that, whenever I get the crossover, because my little team, knows that I write books, but I don't like to talk about it a lot because I just want to do my job and go home. And it's when I go to events and stuff, then it's like, then you're Kameron Hurley, the writer, and you kind of got a thing. Whereas this is like, I'm just doing my job and writing blogs and running these accounts, and it's fine. And I don't mind it, Yeah. And it's writing, and it is a writing job. That's the thing too. It is a writing job. It's writing for other people. It's writing things that don't necessarily really matter to me. But it's a writing job, and there are much worse things that I have done and could do. So,
I feel like every time I complain about this, I'm sounding like I'm like putting down a kink or a certain kind of person in that the fart in the jar market. And, Gaius points out, I haven't made any new content in a while, but I did not find my adult content customers to be a lot worse than customers when I was a cashier at a department store. That's not a high bar, but still. Some were awful, but I could block them easier than when I worked for the store. It's also not a job for everyone. So, yes. Yeah, it's just that...
You do come across a little critical, Mer. That is true.
I do. Look, I just want to say that when you get into a sexual type of content creation, you're going to have people who think that they can have more of you than they have and say, the whole date me and I love you and blah, 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 instead of just like, let me enjoy you clicking into a mic. And I am uncomfortable with that. I'm uncomfortable just random people saying, I want to date you. I don't want that in my stream. I don't want that in my audience.
I hate that too. But let me tell you, as a writer, I've also gotten that. A lot more of it 20 years ago. But I've also gotten a lot of that, where you get randos. Yeah. I can name names of some people who went on me 20 years ago, where, you're like, well, that's uncomfortable and that's crappy. I think that's just like, but and here's the problem. Here's the issue. Anytime you're creating something publicly, and that's why I talk about that public persona versus I'm at work,
right,
and doing my little thing. I'm writing as a ghostwriter, right, for these big brands. So my name isn't in on anything. But as soon as you put something out, and I am Kameron Hurley, this is a work that I have made, like people just objectify you. They just do because you're a persona. You're not a human being. And it's uncomfortable and it sucks and it's horrible, but that's part of the job. And I think that we don't talk about that a lot as creators. Is like when you cease to be Neil Gaiman, a human being, and suddenly you're Neil Gaiman, the Neil Gaiman. And people forget, like, we all have problems. We've got real problems, and we are not like that snippet that you saw online or, oh, you read my book. Like, a human being is very complex and there are many things. But you are going to be, and Elizabeth Bear talks about this, you are going to become an authorial construct.
Yes.
You're an authorial construct. You are not a real person. And this is why, and I harp on writers all the time, don't go on the internet looking for stuff about yourself. They're not writing about you.
No.
They're writing about their interpretation. They made up ideas they have based on this one thing that they've read, or this one headline they read, or this one thing they heard. The things I have heard about myself are just amazing. Where I'm like, how did you even think about that? And at a certain point, you just got to let it go. They're not talking about you. It has nothing to do with you. 90% of the time, when you're getting reactions to something you said or your work, it's about that person. And a lot of times it's about that person and that they have some things that they need to deal with.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear some value, like if you hear it a lot, right? You're like, well, maybe I should address that. But for the most part, if you're an authorial construct, you are something that they are, pushing against. And you have to think about that in your own life. Like, I don't know anything about, I don't know, some famous, I don't even keep up with famous people anymore. Right. This is the other problem, Mer. As soon as I went to Clarion and I met like Octavia Butler and I met Monica McIntyre, I know she's, and I met Greg Bear, and then I'm just like, these are just people.
Yeah.
Like I had that transformative moment when I was like 20. And like after that, it's like, again, like I remember sitting at the convention, and Neil Gaiman is sitting at the table across, and he just looks exhausted.
Yeah.
He's had a really tough time. And my husband's like trying to surreptitiously take a photo. I'm like, babe, come on, we're all exhausted and we're people. Can we all just sit down and have a nice little, meal, and it's fine. Like, let him relax. He's about to jump on a plane, clearly. He's just chatting with somebody before he goes. It's like, you have to realize, like, everyone is just a person. But I think unless you have been around a lot of people who, I tell that to people all the time. I'm like, I'm not famous, but I'm famous to like a few thousand people. Yeah. And if I get in a room with those few thousand people, it's like, it's the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's exciting.
But I'm not famous. Yeah, you think you're something that you're not, because in your everyday life, like, I'm writing these ghost blogs for big brands.
Yeah, I gotta go grocery shopping and walk the dog. It's like
I pick up dog shit all day. Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, people are the only thing they're aware of is the little pieces that they see, and they construct an identity out of that, and that is not us. So.
Yeah. Even when you give more of yourself, as people have done in the last 14 years on social media. I'm going from the Twitter creation. There's probably more, but that's what I'm going on. You're still holding stuff back. You're not. That's what I love about Elizabeth Bear's thing is like. They're still going on their own headcanon of who you are when they don't know you because they're not around you all the time. I get, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a raging egomaniac. And Cameron, you know me better than a lot of people here, so you know I'm not a raging egomaniac. I'm a pathetic people pleaser. But, I had brunch yesterday with an old friend, and we'd like connected once in the past 25 years or so, and this was the second time we connected, and I learned a lot about him, and he didn't ask much about me, and I'm like, I'm a writer. I achieved things that I wanted to achieve, and he doesn't care. That's okay. I guess, that's okay. But it's like, to him, I was just this friend from high school. I was not what I've tried to build in my public and private and public or professional persona. I'm just, the one he hung out with in high school. And that was okay. We had a great time. But part of me was just like... I find
that refreshing.
No, it was. But part of me was like, don't you care?
I'm Murph fucking Lafferty.
That's a fucking Star Wars book, man.
I read Star Wars. I went to the ranch, goddammit.
I did not go to the ranch. I did not go to the ranch.
I thought they put you in a room at the ranch.
No, they put me in a room in San Francisco.
San Francisco, okay.
I did not go to the ranch.
Listen, she didn't go to the ranch, people, okay? Listen. To get that
my bad, Cameron. No. I did not go to the ranch.
Glad you clarified that, Murr. So now it's not hoity-toity Murr who's going to the ranch. All right, then.
Hoity-toity Murr got flown out to the San Francisco offices, which my agent told me had a beautiful view of the bay, but they put me in the basement. With no windows.
Because you're locked in a room with the script.
I was locked in a room with the script. They were very, very concerned about the script. They cared more about the script than like my personal items. Like, we're going to lunch, and I'm like, can I leave this stuff behind? And she looks at like my bag, and she looks at the script. She's like, better take the script. And so, yeah. So yeah, it's the times you. Yeah, the times you expect people not to care, they're going to care. And then the other half, I mean, maybe you want to see me have made something of myself from high school, because I was a total nerd and shy and unfortunate and 12th in the list of achievements. Like, I was not salutatorian, I was not valedictorian, I wasn't even in the top 10. I was 12th. So that's like... That was just total whiff, total almost hit the grand slam. I just, missed. And so you want to think, hey guys, look what I did. And, didn't happen. But that's okay. There's been a rum. There sounds more.
I was gonna say, we're quite chatty. So, but here's my thing with that.
You're sounding very royal we here. We're quite chatty, says Cameron. Speaking about Myrrh,
I'm here too. Listen,
you talk for a while.
I was gonna say, here's the thing. I could give a shit what anyone in high school thinks about me. I have like one person that I talk to who's been my friend for ever and ever. We've been friends for so long. I call her my sister, and it's like. And we don't have to have that conversation because you've known each other since you're 14, and I see her over Thanksgiving. She's coming out here, in fact, next week. So it's whatever. That's like family. The rest of people, I could give a fuck if I cared what balls, ass, what they thought. I would have kept in contact with them, and it's very telling that this is someone you'd only talk to once or twice. And I do get that there is that. I think maybe I felt that way maybe like in my mid to late 20s, or you always want to kind of prove yourself. But I've proven myself to myself, so I don't care what they think. I remember one of them was telling me, again that I text occasionally on like Twitter or something, was like, oh yeah, I ran into so and so, and he said he had all these things to say about why he didn't like your book, and it's like, well, which one? And then it's like, I don't care. I don't care if he liked it or not. He was an asshole. He's still an asshole. I can get, but goddamn what the guy living in his mom's basement thinks. So I went to high school with 20-some years ago. I just don't care. Yeah. And I think some of that is like, I care far more about, what my peers, and my peers these days are more like other writers, other creatives. I care more about what they think and my ideal reader thinks. And I think that's important to keep in mind too. There are people who say they're your fans, and they are not your fans, like Star Wars fans, quote unquote. Who
definitely not fans.
Those are not fans. No. But my ideal readers, who are Kameron Hurley readers, who love, what I do, are there for every book. Like, I care what they think of me, and that's important to me. But for a lot of the time, I find it extremely freeing to just realize, like, I don't care. I don't care because it does not affect me in any way, shape, or form, does not affect my bottom line or how I think about myself or any of that. I don't care. So
here's the deal. Cameron, I apologize because to you, this is old. But I don't know who among us is listening has not heard this story. However,
okay. Oh, is this the chicken story?
No.
Or the turkey? Okay.
It's a foot in the boot story. I wasn't even going to go into the turkey. It's a turkey, not a chicken. It's a turkey.
Okay, folks, here we go. Whenever Mer's drunk, she brings this up. So here you go. You guys are all get to hear the turkey chicken.
I was just going to point out how Cameron looks at the world. And I admire it so much. And I connected to her grandmother. Her grandmother found a Nazi foot in a boot. And that's all she found. And there was the whole, like, if you're found with, like, a dead Nazi, your family gets murdered. So you gotta get rid of you throw the boot in the Seine. Was it the Seine?
It was a river or something. I don't think Nancy Francis is the Seine, but it was the river. Yeah.
Sure, it was a Seine. So...
I love how this story has changed over the years as Mer's told it. But keep going. No, this is good. This is good content, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that it's like Cameron going, I don't care. I don't care what they think of me. I don't care. I'm like, I wish I could do that. And then I keep thinking about, like, your grandmother was the one who threw the foot in the river. My grandmother was the one who chased the turkey up the tree. And it's like, I know that you, Cameron, have had experiences in your life. You, not your family, not anything else, but you've had experiences where you can look at the experiences in your life and go like, fuck you, I don't care. Yeah. And I have not had your experiences. I've had the privilege of not having your experiences. I'm not complaining. I don't want the bad experiences, but it's like, I am still just like, I kind of care.
No, you do care.
I kind of care. I don't want to care.
My husband has the same thing. I mean, he's just like, I really care. And I think that's a virtue. I mean, you know, you're all nicer than me. I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole who has learned to who has worked incredibly hard to not be an asshole. But I think that asshole part of me is the one that's like, I could give a shit. I don't care.
But
which is a virtue in that sense, not in like a lot of other senses, which is why I've tried to be less of an asshole. Yeah.
You have worked very hard, bottom line. I mean, you know, you've busted and your husband is an awesome person who is not an asshole. Yeah. And he's delightful. And if you compare me with him, I will feel like warm in my center because your husband's delightful and I like him a lot. And but you know, it's like you're talking about how you don't care about those people. Now, granted, the person I was talking about from my high school was one of my best friends. We just kind of lost touch. And we just recently reconnected. Mm-hmm. So he's not one of those generic high school people that I don't care about. I've not been to a high school reunion. I've not tried to make myself awesome. I've not tried to go to the high school reunion going, I've been to the ranch. Because A, I haven't, and B, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't know what that is.
Because listen, people, she hasn't been to the ranch. We've gotten that straight, okay?
I believe Urban Bohemia just unfollowed me because I haven't been to the ranch.
That's the only reason anyone was following you,
That's right. That's right.
Been to the ranch.
Exactly. No, it's really the whole grandmother story, Cameron, is the fact that I admire you. I admire the fact that your grandmother was a badass. I admire the fact that you're a badass. And just the fact that your grandmother's story is so diametrically opposed to my grandmother's story. It's just really funny. That's all. If you buy Station Eternity, which is coming out on October 4th, you will hear the story, which is only slightly fictionalized about my grandmother winning a live turkey in a radio giveaway and driving home with it in her trunk and then opening the trunk and having the turkey surprise fly out and run down the street and my grandmother run after it screaming.
I thought that was badass. On myself, I was like, she could have just been like, well, fuck that turkey.
See, that's what I would do. I'm like, well, that's gone. Of course, I would have been like, why did I put
I guess I'm gonna go buy a frozen turkey
without anything else? And how do they expect me to kill this? I live in a suburb of Charlotte. Wait, Shauna has questions. Where was the rest? Jasmine wants to know where was the rest of the body, Cameron?
So here is here's the story handed down to me so God knows, right? These are all. So my grandmother lived in Nazi-occupied France, during World War II. And there was a rule that if, that when among the Nazi, who had taken over, like if there was one Nazi killed, then they would kill 20 French people for every Nazi that they killed, right? Very common Gestapo fascist thing to do. So my grandmother and her friends, again, she's mid to late teens, I think at this point, late teens, because I think she came over when she was 20 something, late teens. And, they were along the river and they found a Nazi boot with a Nazi foot in it, just sitting in the river. And they're like, where the fuck is the rest of the Nazi? They're like, well, shit, if somebody finds us with this Nazi boot, they're going to assume there's a dead Nazi somewhere. And they're going to start looking for a dead Nazi. And then if they find a dead Nazi, they'll kill 20 of us. So my grandma picks up the boot, she throws it back into the river so that they don't have to worry about, somebody finding this thing and looking for a dead Nazi. God knows, it could have been, because here's the thing. So there are many things. So it's like those feet in the sneakers. Remember that story about the feet in the sneakers? So people find
is this the footprints in the sand story, or?
No, this is different. Okay. So everyone always asks like, oh, it's like this thing that happens every year when in like Canada, where a bunch of feet will wash up inside sneakers will wash up on the shore. You're like, what the fuck is this about? Well, the reason it happens apparently is because your ankles are one that like it's a place in your body that will naturally snap and people will eat it, everything will eat it, and the boots or the sneakers float. So you're very likely to find, so even though the rest of the body might fall to the, the side or whatever and be at the bottom of the river, the boots and the sneakers tend to float. So you'll see a lot of feet inside of boots and sneakers washing up on the beaches.
But why Canada?
The Gulf streams. I don't know. But a lot of times it's in Canada. Yeah. I blame the Gulf Stream.
I've asked Shauna and Preemie about their Canadian feet problems. We don't like to talk about it, says Preemie. So thanks, Cameron.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We have had an evil Mer summoned, and I said add a question with that, and so Kay Kimmy has asked Evil Mer and Cameron, what is the reason to write and publish if not money or fame? Cameron, I don't know if you have a mustache, but I
don't. I need to. I want a beard.
An admitted asshole. Maybe you could just answer for real. I love Cameron. She's awesome. So I'm gonna put my mustache on. So
man, I need my fake beard. I was thinking of getting a fake beard at some point. Okay. Anyway, you go first. Since you're ready, Mur. Yeah, next month. So you go.
I'm ready with the mustache. I'm not ready with anything else. So, what is a reason to write and publish if not money or fame? I'm gonna go back in time and ask 12-year-old Mur, who just got her hands on a Brother word processor, which could write out an entire line on a screen, and then when you're done with the line, the typewriter would write it. And it sounded really impressive because, you didn't have any back thing. It's just... Shit, I don't know what Evil Mer would say. I'd answer the story for... I'd answer the... Evil Mer works for money and fame. If not for money and fame, I don't know, to torture your enemies? You write lies about them? I just reread and rewatched Curtain by Agatha Christie, which I did not realize how brilliant it was because A, the bad guy was just a manipulator, not a murderer, and B, the way Poirot dealt with it was, spoiler, I'ma murder you. And that was how he dealt with it, which makes you wonder if Poirot looks at his entire back history as, well, maybe murder is the right way to go. But that's my point. I'm not sure where it was. Cameron's like, yeah, it's a drinking stream, Mer. Let's go.
She shouldn't have had that second round, people. She was doing good.
I was doing it. Did you get your beard? Go get your beard.
I had a beard. This is my second one.
Beard.
Oh, beard. I don't have it. I don't have one. I was telling you I was thinking of it.
You just said you needed it. I thought you were going to go get it.
You thought I was going to go on Amazon and they would just bring it to my door?
I had a beard with you. Jason, go get the beard. What's he doing there? He should be off work. Go get the beard. Deal with the ducks and go get the beard. Come on, man. So, why do you do it? I don't know. Manipulation, money, sex, drugs. Really, why I do it? Why Mur does it is I wanted to tell fun stories about the books I read that ended in a way that was not satisfying to me, which in the 80s didn't have a name. But now is fanfic, and there's AO3. But at the time, I was writing, Fred Saberhagen and Anne McCaffrey fanfic, because the stories didn't end the way I wanted to, or they ended and I wanted them to keep going. So there's the evil Mer and the good Mer reaction to it.
Yeah. I mean, that's really why I got into writing, right? Is that it's, for me, life sucked and it was boring and I didn't have much of a social life because my parents never wanted me to go anywhere. And we lived in the middle of nowhere, which is fine. I love the woods. And I didn't really like people, but it meant that I didn't have much to do. So I was constantly entertaining myself out there on 2 acres of forested land and making up stories. And I would read stories and they weren't the kind of stories that I necessarily, or I was like, oh, well, I can do better than that. Or, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. And a lot of it for me was I wanted to put down the stories I was like making my make-believe stories. And it was really cool, this magical idea that I could have these things in my head, these experiences that happen. I could put them on the page and other people could experience them. Like, how amazing is that? It's like building something, right? Oh, I just built this house out of nothing, out of thin air and sticks. And here it is. And books are like that, right? It's like, oh, I have this idea in my brain, my fleshy brain bits, And now I'm, manifesting that onto the page, and then I get to share it with other people. That's a kind of magic, right?
Yeah.
And then it is about a connection with and a sharing with other people. Whether or not I actually want to speak to them about that experience, no, because I don't like people. But it was a way to get all that down and to feel like I was creating that creation of something from nothing, and that those experiences were not going to go away. They were going to be, put on, committed to paper. And as a writer, trying to get better and better at communicating, right, that experience and that magic of making it. I mean, it is magical. You're making people feel something from something that doesn't exist. Like they're caring about fake people and they're crying, right? And I think about that a lot when I'm watching TV or I'm crying at the end of a novel or something where I'm just like, this is magical. Someone just wrote words, onto dead trees and made me have an emotional, physical reaction to something that doesn't exist. Like, how magical and cool is that? So yeah, I think that's a lot of it is it is a kind of magic. And that's why I enjoy my day job in marketing is you are like affecting people's thoughts and behaviors and emotions, and for better or worse. But
you're going into the bad guy in curtain here, Kameron.
I'm going into the evil Kameron here. But it can be good, right? It got people to smoke, but it also got people to stop smoking. Got people to wear their seatbelts, didn't it? This is your brain on drugs and the egg in the pan. So there are a lot of these messages and images and things that we can use these marketing messages for good. We can use stories for good. That's what stories are made to do, is to influence human behavior. And unfortunately, again, there are certain segments that realize that a lot better than certain other segments of the population. But you can use that power for good or for evil. And it's all about choosing how you use that power, which again is why I am obsessed with, this idea of monsters and again, the light and the dark side. I think that's why we're really drawn to it, because we do have an immense amount of power. And it's about how am I going to use that power that I have of stories. And stories is really how we learn to understand the world. And it's a tremendous power. And everyone knows it's a tremendous power, which is why they want to ban books and why they want to shit on you online to shut you up and all of that, because it is an immense power. It's that power you have for people and their emotions, because emotions are what drive people to take actions.
That's hardcore, Kameron. I know. That's a good point. We are talking again about the people who can use words as manipulation for good or evil. But that's a good point. You can use it for good or evil. And you do want to tell stories to make people care. That's really what it is. When I still maintain that after I gave birth to a child, it broke my hormones to where I was incapable of watching even the most trite, terrible children's movie. And if they put any sort of sentimentality or pet in it, I would cry. Not ugly cry, not weep. There'd just be tears. And I would hate them. I hate Hotel for Dogs. Fucking Hotel for Dogs made me weep a little bit because of dogs. And it being an emotional children's story. And I still maintain giving birth just broke my hormones. And I cared more about the stupidest shit. But that'll get you. That's how they get you. That's how they get people who've given birth, or people who have families, or people who've lost people. I'm starting to sound like I'm talking about the bad parts, but it's all a human experience, and tapping into that is our power. You think your power is just, I'm going to tell a story about X happened to Y, but you're telling that because a similar story happened to you. Or affected you, or you cared about. And so you want to tell a similar story to people like you who might care about that. and it is a very complex and it's kind of awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we do it, right?
Mm-hmm. No, well, that is why we do it. And here's the thing too: is we talk a lot about as writers the book I had in my head versus the book that I actually wrote, because it's always that's like part of our journey. I know, right? Part of our the thing that keeps you going is I want to write the book that's actually in my head, and I've done that once, and that was Light Brigade. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Light Brigade?
Like that turned out. Yeah, Light Brigade. That turned out exactly how I like it. And it was so there was a lot of things that were super obvious, but I was like, man, if the last 6 years have shown us nothing, it's that we need to be really obvious in our political discourse.
Oh my God.
That's very obvious. But at the end of the day, right, that was the book that was in my head, and that is the emotional experience in my head, and that is the driving force and emotion that I wanted to get across, and I felt like that was the one book that actually did. I set out to do something and I achieved it for my ideal readers. We're able to achieve the thing that I wanted to achieve. So that was cool. Yeah. That's what you write for. To me, that is what you write for.
Yes.
We were just like, I have this thing in my head, and it's and you just boom, and it delivers it. And whether or not, again, has Light Brigade made me famous, and can I quit my day job, and is there a film? No, none of that.
But
so
is there a Jeopardy question?
Is there a Jeopardy? Yeah. Did somebody answer the Jeopardy question right about the Light Brigade? Fuck yes, they did. But anyway.
Not only was there a Jeopardy question, but the person got it right.
Got it right, dude. She got it right.
Contacted this winner and just said, "I'll give you my books forever." You really should.
Ever and ever. I have not.
All your books forever.
But I think that's the thing too, and that's a really good example too. Why do we do this shit? Because of the Jeopardy shit. Not that I've made a ton of money and can quit my job. I can pay my back taxes, order bombs, and say, I was on Jeopardy, motherfucker. That's it. That's it. That's as good as it gets. And you have to be like, yeah, and that's good. That is not a failure, right? And I think that's the problem with having these, and that we were talking about this before the show. If you have an idea in your head that you have to make X amount of money to be successful, you will never be successful. Because let me tell you, we know a lot of super successful writers
we do.
Who are like, I should be making wine all the time. Who are don't have to worry about their bills, who have a bunch of movie deals. I wish I was as successful as XYZ. Oh, and in fact, one of the ones we were bitching about, who is a full-time writer, makes a ton of money, has whatever. I remember with him, I was at a convention with him one time, and someone's like, oh, it's you, talking to him. And then someone goes, oh, and this is Kameron Hurley, to their friend. And the friend looks at me and starts tearing up and sobbing.
Oh, my God.
He says, oh, my God, you're Kameron Hurley. Your work has changed my life. And the guy looks at me. He goes, why doesn't anyone ever cry when they meet me? And I was like, wow, dude, you are never going to be happy. There is never anything in this business that will ever make you happy. Ever. He's always chasing something. There is something he's chasing that he's never going to get. And he's never going to get a satisfaction from writing. And it was a beautiful moment where I'm just like, yeah. And again, I make fun of Joe Abercrombie about this all the time. And this was before, I think he won a Dragon Award now. But this is before he'd won any awards. And he was always like, I sell a lot of books, but I've never won any awards. I said, Joe, I'll trade you half my Hugos for half of your sales. And he's like, but there's always a brass ring.
Yeah.
And that's something I feel we need to remember is that, and people, again, my agent talks to me and says, oh, Kameron, you're always, bitching about, I wish I sold more. People would kill to have your career.
Yes.
Or people would kill to have the career that you have. And you're complaining you have a day job and you're not rich. People would kill to have what you have.
Yes.
And I think that we have to keep that in mind too. Like I said, you have to have these things go, this is enough, right? This is satisfying enough that I go, to these events a couple of times a year and people lose their shit and people were reading my stuff and it shows up on Jeopardy. How amazing. Like, you have to celebrate those successes that are not necessarily capitalist successes, because that might be all you get. And you know what? That's a lot still. That's still a lot.
It is a lot.
So.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just. I could ask you afterwards, but I'll ask you now. Do I know who this person is who was?
Oh, you know.
Okay.
I bet you can guess. I bet it's in your head right now, but I'm not going to say the name until after we.
Of course not. That's not professional.
But you know.
Talk after.
You know who it is.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's got the thing they didn't get. If you have a successful, you sell a book, you think, well, a movie option, that would be cool. You get a movie option, you think, well, if they actually fucking made it, that would be cool. And if they actually fucking make it, you think, well, it could be Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's Game of Thrones, I will bet you all the money I have made off of my movie options that he's thinking, when are these novels ever gonna fucking win a Hugo? 'Cause they haven't!
Yes, that. And here's the thing, too. Again, I know another author who was, that whole thing about movie deal. Well, I just need a movie deal. And if I just get a movie deal, and then it was always looking for external validation.
Yeah.
Finally got a movie deal, and the movie was shit and tanked. And he was pissed. He was pissed. They're like, fuck you got a movie deal. You got paid, whatever, 6 years. Because then it went through to the full development. But it's never enough. And here's the thing. You get a first season. And you're like, wait, great, I've got a first season. And then it's like, oh, they canceled after 1 season. If only I could get 3 seasons. Oh, you can get 3 seasons. But we get 5 seasons.
Yeah.
You have to have something else as your measurement for success, because the world is not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's absolutely true. It's... I'm sorry, just hearing the various, you didn't... You got the option, but not the movie deal. Is a lot of people think, if you talk to authors, maybe not on record, maybe at a con, they're gonna tell you I just want the option to play out forever and ever, because that's $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 every 18 months, and they're never gonna shit on my work. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying they will shit on your work. You could have Game of Thrones, which started out good, or The Expanse, which was awesome. Or you could have anything Ursula K. Le Guin licensed. But let's talk about the business, Cameron, of how the options work. Mm-hmm. So first thing, they say, we want the rights to make something out of your stuff. So we're going to ask for 18 months, and here's, okay, for me, 20,000. That's pretty much been standard. Which is fantastic. It's free money. I am not complaining at all. And then, but after that, it's, if it goes to pilot, it's this much money. If it actually gets picked up, it's this much money. If it gets a second season, it's this much money. One company's deal, I don't know if I can say this out loud, so I'll just say one company, is that if it gets nominated for any awards or wins any awards, it's this much money. And so it's the option's great, but it's further and further up the further you go. And most authors get that option. John Scalzi never had anything made. Correct me if I'm wrong. Never had anything made from his stuff, but it's constantly optioned. Except for he's done the Love, Death, Robots, those 3 robots, right,
the story.
Right. But wasn't that
none of his novels.
Yeah, none of his novels.
It's based on story. Yeah.
Yeah, so John, you think John Scalzi, so popular. He hasn't had anything made from his stuff. He keeps getting optioned every 8
But Old Man's War has never not been on option, which means you're making...
Oh, yeah. No, it's...
100. I mean, there's a shit brick of money every year. I think I remember it was Neuromancer, and I don't know if this is the right amount of money, but it was something from the time that Neuromancer was optioned, which is, what did it come out, the late 80s or some shit? But every year, dude's making 20 grand to keep it optioned since the 80s. At least 20 grand a year. That's not a bad way to make a living. And frankly, a lot of people in Hollywood make a living that way. Is they write a pilot, they sell it, and it never gets made, it never gets seen. But they made $100,000 to write a script, and then they just write a bunch of those. It's a weird. Hollywood is fucked up. You think publishing is fucked up, people? Hollywood is fucked. We got to get Margaret Dunlap on here because she can't really say.
Yes,
but Hollywood is really fucked up. Let me just tell you.
Hollywood throws around so much money that never actually turns into anything. But Kids Are Asleep, Valerie Valdez says, now they're doing shopping agreements and trying not to pay you, Valerie. That's not good.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I will tell you right now, don't do it. It's them fucking us like they've been trying to fuck us from the very beginning, always and forever, because they know they need stories, but they don't want to pay for them. And I will tell you again, as someone who has been pitched many, many, many shopping agreements, I did one that was a shopping agreement where they paid me a pittance amount of money because the book hadn't come out yet. So I was like, well, okay, we'll do it. And then stopped doing it because they didn't do anything with it. They literally squatted their shit on it for 18 months and did nothing. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. And I will never forget.
I remember this. This has been.
I will never forget. Yeah, here's one of them. One of them came to me, I think they were emailing my agent, but she forwarded me the email, which was, I said something like, well, yeah, if you want to option it for another 6 or 8, if you want to actually, squat on it for 6 or 8 months, I need $5,000. And he came back and she's like, well, I've been talking to a lot of financiers, and they say that they can option bestsellers for $5,000.
Oh, really?
And I said, well, she can go option a fucking bestseller then, kid. Oh, do not try and nag Kameron Hurley. Do not try and nag me. I will walk away like I have a day job. I don't need your fucking money. Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, no, just don't. I was talking to a friend who has had stuff made and was just like, he's like, dude, if someone is fucking serious and they actually want to make something, they will find a way to pay you $10,000. These people have plenty of money sitting around. What they're doing is they're collecting IP and they're getting their little tips and they're squatting on your shit. What you want is somebody who's willing to put up money for it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Do not do it. Make sure that they are investing something, because if they're not investing something, then they're not invested, are they? And it just sits. And you could be with someone else who's actually doing something with it.
What you're doing is you're tying off your own hands in being able to get money from someone else. I've never experienced a shopping agreement, and I never want to. That sounds awful and ridiculous. And no,
it's very silly.
You cannot get a bestseller for $5,000. I'm sorry. I am not a bestseller, and I'll just tell you, the options I've had have been more than 5,000. I'm just saying. If you can get more than 5, you can't get a bestseller for 5. Unless they have a terrible agent.
Terrible agent. And some of them do. I still know. I did know, actually, there was a dude who had a book that was a bestseller who was, oh, well, I just did a shopping agreement for $500. And he's thinking that's amazing. Because people don't know, Mer. Writers don't know. They just think they believe everything that, and here's the problem with Hollywood. Hollywood will talk and 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 talk. But when it comes to actually giving you money, good luck.
They like to blow smoke.
They love to blow smoke. And I ask people again, I know people who've been, working in Hollywood or successful in Hollywood, and they're just like, that's how we survive, is by being incredibly optimistic constantly about everything. And we always are talking to people because that's how we figure out if we can actually work with them. And I'm like, well, that's great, but my fucking time is valuable.
Yeah.
I remember we did a light brigade thing where we had like all these people who were interested, like from things you would recognize, production houses and things like. And I talked to so many people over like 2 weeks, and I was exhausted. Yeah. Did they ever pull any cash out of their asses? Not a single fucking one.
Oh,
not a one.
Kameron.
Right? And it was amazing. Like, I was talking to people, like, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't believe I'm talking to these people. And nobody came up with any money. And and they would all give their reasons for it. And this is, a friend of mine said, do not do any meetings unless they already have sent, like, here is my initial offer that I'm considering to give to you if this works out. Otherwise, don't take the meeting. Just don't do it because your time is valuable. Yeah. You could be writing.
It's not worth your time. Exactly.
That's Hollywood. Yeah. And that's only 2 beers in, Mer.
I know. I know. I probably should have started with something less strong than
less rummy.
It's I don't have a lot of complaints about Hollywood. They gave me some option money and then they went away. And I've never had to deal with the whole, like, let me flatter you and that should be enough. Because you can go to Food Lion and you can buy meat and pasta and rice with flattery. Here's what a man from Hollywood said to me. I'm going to hand it to the cashier and she's going to be like, oh, wow, impressive. Here, have your
food. He's worked with Michael Douglas, though. I mean, give me your best ground beef for that one. Yeah.
No, bring in the Angus. It's Mary Lafferty here. Michael Douglas. It's not Michael Douglas. Never mind. Yeah. That's what happened.
Oh God, it's all too real. People, you are listening to Ditch Diggers because we keep it real. We keep it real on Ditch Diggers. Yeah.
We do. It's hard to complain about the diamond shoes, but you got to know what happens with.
Yeah,
when but you don't want to be flowing around and you got a book deal. It's exciting, but it's like they imply that there's a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more diamonds falling from the sky. Not so much.
No.
So
yeah, and I think that's just important. Again, and that's why I love this podcast because it is a professional level podcast. This is like, hey, this is Writing 201. It's awesome. You are writing things. That is amazing. Don't get fucked now.
Yes. Don't get fucked.
Everyone's out to fuck you. Because everyone gets their piece, you know? And this is always important. Your work is valuable. If your work was not valuable, they would not be having meetings with you. Your work is valuable.
Yeah.
And that's also super important to get across to writers. If you're being approached by people, it's because they think they can make money off you.
Yes.
And if they think they can make money off you, you should be making money.
Yes. So, don't downplay your own value. And if you need to have your agent stepping up for you, saying that this is not worth our time or our effort. So remember that. And if you're being approached by Hollywood, then for God's sake, get an agent. You can get an agent somehow.
Oh, do not talk to these people on your own.
No.
Oh my.
Don't.
No.
Because they will blow smoke, and let me tell you, that smoke feels good against your anus. It is not worth it. It is only smoke against your anus. If you think logically.
Sweet massage!
What does smoke against your anus do? Nothing. Oh, God. So, even if it's like caressing and warm, don't do it. You need actual money. And I've had experience. I've had meetings where, like, there was actual money involved.
Mm-hmm.
And it never turned into anything, but I sat there and I felt good, and I'm like, okay, part of myself who does this podcast has said, this means nothing until the check is signed. And I got a check, but, like, as they were talking about it, I remember there's a word. It's expedited. When Netflix had Orange is the New Black, but not much else. They were trying to option Shambling Guide to New York City. And they're just like, we love this. We're going to expedite this. It's going to be super and hot. And I'm like, Orange is the New Black. Yeah, here we go. Expedition. Let's go. Make it fast. They didn't even announce it until a couple of months into the second option. And I remember I took a nap that day. And I woke up and I looked at my phone and Twitter was exploding with, oh my God, congratulations, Mer, hooray. I'm like, what the fuck happened? And I realized Netflix had finally mentioned that it had optioned my work about 21 months ago. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of tired. So I'm not excited about that anymore, but yay, it's public. And no, it never happened. There was no expedition. There was no expedited bullshit for this script. It just, they bought the rights. They didn't do anything with them. I got some free money. Again.
Yeah, right. Not free money.
Down the free money. It's awesome.
We love free money. Money should flow to us. Free money. Yeah.
Yeah. Gene Wolfe mentioned that options are like, basically, you're a prostitute. It's like you go out, you give away your thing, you make your money, and the next night you can give away your thing and make money again. It's just like there's nothing. I don't know. It was kind of funny but weird, but also it's like money comes in and you have to make it.
Bachelor was an old man thing. But. And I think that's a fundamental thing too. Is people there's a few Hollywood terms. We got to do a whole thing on Hollywood again. We got to get Margaret in here.
I know.
Is that an option does not mean in development, and in development does not mean in production. In production does not mean greenlit. Greenlit does not mean we have wrapped. There is a whole series, right, of things, and we just saw this with Batgirl, right? We spent $90 million. We did the whole entire thing. Everybody got paid. Everybody's cashing their checks. No one is ever going to see that shit unless somebody leaks it, which I'm sure will happen eventually. But it's being shit canned, and no one's ever seen it. That's how Hollywood works. That there are these specific things, these hurdles that you have to go through, and everyone gets paid a certain amount at each of those, which is why you can make a living in Hollywood, having your stuff only go through 3 first gauntlets. But you can make a ton of stuff, and I think John Rogers was talking about this with me on Twitter, where he said, my green light to actual seeing a production made is 25%. 25% of the stuff that I pitch, I actually get to see, or that I'm involved with, actually gets to see. And he's like, that is a huge percentage. That's considered super high in the industry. Because most of the time you could just make a living just pitching stuff and maybe get to the first or second gauntlet, and then it just falls apart because we changed direction, this person left, and I think for writers, that is it's shocking because they're willing to shit out so much money, and then they'll come to you and say, well, I can option a bestseller for $5,000. Yeah. You can write off $90 million for a show that no one's going to see. Hold that for the money, my friend. If you never get anything out of Ditch Diggers, if you're listening to this 57 years from now and I am dead and gone in the grave, please know, get your fucking money. Get your fucking money. Do not walk away without any money. Your shit is valuable. If you walk away with nothing else from me on all of these things, please remember that.
I just want to say that I have not had a bestseller or anywhere close. I guess Star Wars was close, but that was already a movie. So the other stuff, the original stuff, not a bestseller, and I've gotten a lot more than 5,000. And I'm not a bestseller, so
they will say anything to neg you.
Just know that. Not a bestseller at all. Gotten a lot more than 5,000 for an option. And it's weird because people around you still refuse to connect to the fact that option means no one else can date you. But it doesn't mean you're going to the prom.
Yes.
And it's like, great, yeah. Going to the prom. No, I'm only going to the prom if this person decides I'm going to the prom.
Decides to go with me.
But I got a dress, so that's cool.
But he's paying, so shit, why not?
They bought the dress. It's awesome. It's a beautiful dress. But, and again, I don't want to be an asshole here. It's free money. There's nothing to complain about. It's ridiculous. I have made more money off of the Shambling Guides option than I had the Shambling Guides advance. Mm-hmm. I made more money for something that never got made.
Never happened.
It is free money. It's fantastic, but it's like, no, it doesn't.
But they have the money. Yeah.
And they've got this money to just throw shit around. We do need to get Margaret on.
I know.
And maybe next month, you and me and Margaret will talk.
Yeah, see how she's not gonna be able to name names, but she'll have a lot of insider knowledge.
Of course not. No,
yeah.
no. Margaret Dunlap is a friend of ours who works in Hollywood. Has written for Dark Crystal and Barbie most recently. And what's really cool is when my kid had a friend. These are 19-year-olds. Kid had a friend over, and she's mentioning, like, you gotta see the Barbie thing. And my kid's like, really? Barbie? And she's like, no, you gotta see it. It's smart. I'm like, my friend writes for Barbie. Oh, yeah.
For Barbie.
My friend makes that smart shit. Oh, yeah. Uh-oh.
Fine, whoa.
It just made a sound, but you're still here and I'm still here, so...
Okay, fine.
Okay, we're good. So, yeah, Margaret writes for Barbie. Margaret wrote for Dark Crystal. Margaret's amazing, and we're lucky enough to have her as a friend, so I think we should have her on.
And I think that Dark Crystal won an Emmy, but she can't say she's Emmy award winning, right?
Well, she can because of Lizzie.
Lizzie Borden Diaries.
Not Borden. Borden's the murderer, isn't she?
Oh.
Anyway, there was the.
Anyway, she'll set us right. Yeah.
She worked on a web thing that won an Emmy a long time ago, and she doesn't have the statue, but
she keeps
can
us
say she's
sane
Emmy
when we
winning.
complain about Hollywood. Yeah. So.
And she can
and
say
she's like, oh yeah,
things.
that's kind of fucked up. Yeah.
Now I've asked her, I'm like, you work and see. Here's the thing: is like we complain about fiction, and then I hear about people in Hollywood, and I'm like, thank you, Kay Kimmy, Lizzie Bennett, and Art for the Apocalypse.
Lizzie Bennett.
We should do Lizzie Borden Diaries.
I was just gonna say, shit, we just came up with a great concept. Let's go sell it. We're ready to auction that one now. If anyone wants to call
for $6,000. Oh God, no! It's the weird thing about Hollywood is I think about all the times I feel like I've been done wrong. And Kameron, I'm not going to name names about my situation or your situation, but you and I talk in private. I know the times you felt you've been done wrong.
Oh yeah,
but I think about
I have been done wrong.
The people in Hollywood.
Oh,
who, like,
God.
worked and never had anything come to screen. I think about granted, I don't know many actors, so perhaps their situations were different, but it's like, I think about the woman, I think about the artist, the actor who was Rob Geller's first wife in the pilot. Mm-hmm. She wasn't in any of their episodes. I think about other people who were, like, had bit parts that would have been huge, but they didn't keep going. And I don't know if it was them or the show, but it's like you get this part and you act this part and you do awesome, and then suddenly the part keeps going and you don't, and you're like, wait, that was my... Okay, no, that was not my part. It's like this shit in Hollywood, I don't know how they stay alive. I really don't.
No, there was a point in my life where I was like, hey, I really enjoy acting and I really enjoy writing. And I was like, well, I'll be able to write a whole lot longer and I won't develop an eating disorder.
Yeah.
And that was like a huge deal. Like I seriously considered it. And I was like, I can write for a lot longer and I will actually be hitting my stride at 40 as opposed to my career being over at 40. I mean, Hollywood is brutal.
Yeah, it really is. And
I remember actually the dude who writes the Witcher books. He said, well, didn't you want to be involved? Yeah, with the production. And he's like, why would I want that? I just wanted them to send me the money and I give it to people who know what the fuck they're doing. And that's just cash the checks. And I'm like, yes, I just want to cash the checks.
Yeah.
I'm not 20 anymore, right? Like, I'm just like, I love writing books. Books are great. Hollywood is a beast.
So here's a fun question. As I came up in my career, I've been taught that you don't get any say. Like, even that lady in Scotland didn't have a whole lot of say in the movie. She had a lot more than any of us. But it's like, then suddenly you hear about the Expanse guys. They were involved with the Expanse, and so was Martin. And I hear that Jemison although Jemison's stuff has not hit the screen yet. I know it's like moving forward, which is great. It needs to be, but it's not there yet.
Well, and Victoria Schwab wrote First Kill for that first season for Netflix.
Oh, yeah. Shit, I didn't realize that.
Oh, she did. Good for her. Yeah, I was very proud of her, even though, again, one season, but hey, good season, great stuff. She got to write for it. That was really solid. So, yeah. It happens. But here's the thing.
More recently, but it seems
It's
like we
still
shouldn't get our hopes up.
No. Well, it depends on what you want. And here, once again, channeling Margaret, she always is asking, what do you want from Hollywood?
Yeah.
When you're talking to these people, what do you want from Hollywood? Do you just want to, again, be the Witcher guy, take the money and run? Do you want to just be a consultant? Do you want to be hands-on? Do you want to actually write the shit? I mean, it's all about what do you want from Hollywood? And knowing that before you start talking to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Which I think is a super important point, because that's going to also make it really easy to say yes or no to people when you get served up certain deals. And I think that the more you know about what you want and what you want to do, the easier it's going to be to make the kind of deals that you want to make and to connect with the people that you want to connect with to make something great. And I think that's super important. I know, and I think about that as a writer as well. What do I want? What hill am I willing to die on? My agent asks me this a lot when we come to negotiating contracts.
Right.
Are we willing to die on this hill, or can we move on? And I've died on a hill before. But for the most part, it's like, well, no, I don't think I need to die on that hill. So yeah, I think that's an important thing to know about yourself, about your career, which is why I feel like, now that I'm in my 40s, I feel way better about and more confident in my career and where I'm going, because I've had to think about all of these things. And I've been, pressed to think about these questions. And, what do I want? What do I think I'm good at? What makes me happy? So it's a good experience. And with that, it is like 6:30 here.
I know,
so.
I've been keeping you far too long. Starvin says, I assume that in the era of Marvel, when Hollywood wants rabid fans grounded in the source material, being faithful to the original is a selling point, so now involving the authors is a revenue-generating marketing point. I have things to say about different media, and I can't remember whether I was going to do this for Ditch Diggers or I Should Be Writing, but there is a reason to change things with a new medium, but it's far too late into the stream to do that. So we can talk about that later. Cameron, thank you so much for all of this, for letting me retell the story. I want to say that I did not retell the story of the Nazi boot.
But we had to retell it so that people knew.
Yes, but you said it changed every time. It didn't change. I didn't change anything.
It's like playing telephone. It's fine. I literally were playing telephone from 1939 or whatever. So it's all good.
That's true. Anyway,
but I felt this was a good use of our time.
I think so.
And I hope it was a good use of everyone else's time who was listening. So.
I certainly hope so. They're still with us. So I
hope it's worth at least a $5,000 option.
It should really be a $5,000 option. This whole podcast should be a $5,000 option. MightyMart@gmail.com is where you can find me if you want to offer this $5,000 option, and I will buy Cameron a really good bottle of scotch in thanks. So, Cameron, tell people where they could find you online.
Hey, y'all. You can find me on TikTok and Insta and Facebook, but mostly just my assistant runs that. And Twitter @Kameron Hurley. That's Cameron with a K. And, of course, you can get a short story every month from me at patreon.com/Kameron Hurley. Starting at $1 a month. You get a cruel, amazing, revolutionary tale of war and blood and God knows what. So there's really no better deal on the internet. You certainly aren't paying $5,000 for.
War and blood and God knows what for $1, y'all.
I support $1.
Clearly.
That's where you can find me, so that I that's where.
I'm at Merverse.com, MightyMart@gmail.com, and if you want to see this live on Mondays, either noon o'clock or 4:30 o'clock, depending on who the guest star is, it's twitch.tv/MightyMart. And if you want to support all this for $1, actually I'm not sure, I think we're at $3 now, I might drop it to $1 at some point, but I'm not sure. Really good business plan right here, me talking. Patreon.com/MightyMart. Go check it out. It's never going to be higher than $3, so not a lot to lose. This podcast was produced under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Music provided by Devo Spice, devospice.com.
Ditch diggers!
This is a free podcast brought to you by the kindness of our patrons. If you would like to also be kind and a patron, go to patreon.com/mightymur.